Hey everyone, welcome to the 27th edition of ClariTea Chat in an AMA format, which is Ask Me Anything. As you saw in the video, it's all about technology, leadership, and management insights. This is the 96th episode of ClariTea Chat, and I'm speaking to you from Muscat, Oman, where I'm visiting on a customer project. Well, this is an open-ended AMA session with the opportunity to engage in thought-provoking, freewheeling discussions. These can, of course, involve the taboo technology topics. Taboo technology topics. Okay. You're free to ask any question about these. So it's a no-holds-barred and stimulating, thought-provoking discussion. The focus is, of course, on technology management and leadership areas. The whole purpose is to bring in thought leadership, build a thought leadership in IT management. So feel free to ask questions on any of these topics. As always, I'll try to bring in my experiences and experiments, not just Gyan, to answer your questions. Just a quick bit acknowledging my audience here. I'm sitting in a room alone, and it may feel lonely. But then, as your comments come in, I definitely mahal banta hai. We sort of create that environment which is more interactive, and I get to know who all are there, etc. So let me acknowledge all of you, my CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology leaders who form our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary, but not sufficient to drive business performance. The guests on ClariTea Chat, as well as I myself, we build the bridge between the necessary and sufficient with the art of managing technologies. And we build that bridge between our learnings and with all of you who are trying to make a powerful impact with technology. So thank you all for joining us for the last 96 episodes and the last 27 episodes of Ask Me Anything, and encouraging us with your interactions and questions. So let's see who we have here. May I request my audience to share your name and where you're joining from in the comment section of YouTube or LinkedIn. So let's see. I do have I have one hands up here, which is from Bhupendra, my friend from Muscat itself. Thanks, Bhupendra, for joining us. So let's get started, guys. Please keep your names coming in the comments. It definitely feels a little less lonely when I see those comments pouring in. Okay. So you have the comment section of LinkedIn or YouTube. You put in there where you're attending this, and I see it in here in the studio. Okay. So let's begin the session. Please keep asking your questions. I have picked up some questions, and some of my I would say thought-provoking conversations that I keep having with my fellow leaders. This is a conversation I was having with Bhupendra, and he was narrating, one of his early days experience, which I thought is very important for us to be here. I told Bhupendra, and here you see him, willing to share his experience. So Bhupendra, I will initiate it, but then please put in comments anything additional and any other experiences that you have. And this was about enriching IT management or managing well by dipping into the bottom of the IT's pyramid, which is closer to customers. So the story goes like this: that he used to go along with his boss for lunch in the canteen of the plant, and then his boss would say, we came by the main road, but let's go back through the shop floor. So the road back from the canteen goes through the shop floor, became the sort of jumla. And as you are walking through the shop floor, as you're taking a detour, visiting shop floors, there are people who kind of say hi, and someone says that the inventory values are not matching. Someone says my barcode scanner has some trouble, etc., etc. So you actually get to pick a lot of operational excellence related feedback, whether things are working fine or not. Somebody may even give you a compliment that, hey, that dashboard you guys have released is very helpful, etc. And then you get to sort of feel the pulse, right? Coming to my personal experience, I've never left an opportunity to to visit the ground, because that's where the action is. The real value from technology is created on the ground with the customers, with your end users, in all your operational areas, whether it's warehouses or whether it's plants, your service workshops, right? Even your sales executives. So a few instances, whenever I would, of course, I had a Tata car, so whenever I would visit a workshop, I would simply just observe around as to how people are using the systems that we have given them. And one very important thing, how much time are they spending of their day? Most of the users, I realized, are spending only about, let's say, 15% of the time, okay, on the system. The rest of the time, they're doing a lot of stuff, and then they keep coming back to the system for gathering the information. And I got that insight that, this querying for data, or let's say, making the data that they carry along with them from the screen to the shop floor is very, very important, and therefore should be, much, much easier either to access or to even, refer. Well, I mean, I've kept doing that and, taking those insights back. But then also always puts you in a, let me tell you, when we talk about, top floor to shop floor, the people who get respect at the top floor are the people who are connected to the shop floor. So again, let me dip into another experience. This is very recent, actually. This is related to one of my consulting assignments. And well, I visited the customer, and I just told my hosting CIO that, you know what, if you want me to help you, I first want to get a sense of your operations. Okay, and a sense means a feel of your operations. So, well, we went around. We went to different operational areas. We went to warehouses. We went to shop floors. We saw the operations happening, the customer-facing operations happening, and different areas. I even went to one of their export warehouses, which had slightly different set of processes. And then I came to my next steering committee, where the top people were there, and we started engaging in a discussion, and I started building the insights. Of course, we were having a discussion about the processes, the health of operations and all. And then I started bringing in a sort of sense of realism, or you can say a very studied point of view, which made them wonder that he's like, I mean, how do you know this? And then I told them that, in the last 2 days, I have visited at least 4 places of your business. And then there was a bit of a shock in the room that this guy is new. He just started the assignment, and he has been to places where we have not been to, right? I must say that was one good step for me, in gaining some respect among some really senior people. And that actually stood me in good stead as well. The least that people in that organization do nowadays is to listen to me because they know that I'm connected to the ground. So wherever you are, whether you are in a partner's organization, whether you are in your own IT organization, or whether you are in a headquarter function, make sure that the way from the lunchroom, from the canteen, it passes through the shop floor. So I'll leave you with that thought. I do see some comments coming in, so I will be taking those on. I see some comments from Bhupendra here. So, but yeah, please, if you have any such experiences, which, let's say, what I shared, which got you some respect, or which got you an appreciation for being connected to the ground, or which helped you do something, which was not so obvious, or many a times keeping connected to the ground also gives you a reality check between what your managers are telling you versus what your users are telling you. And believe that very well, that a lot of times the real stories on the ground are not the stories that your managers tell you, especially if you're sitting a little bit way up. And what makes their stories real is that when they know that you're going to be going after real stories, and you're not going to be believing in just those stories. So it actually, if you inculcate this as a top manager, when you're sitting in the headquarters, you will see that it percolates as a culture. So your next level, when they are told stories by their managers, they will make sure that they go back and check, because when they tell it to you, you're going to go back and check, right? And then so on, it cascades, and then you see that your entire organization or function, they become more connected to the ground, more connected to the customer, more connected to the reality, and then your department stands out as someone who are like connected to the ground, who always know and talk sense, and who don't bullshit around, right? Okay, so let me bring in. I can see some good amount of comments here. So guys, keep them coming. So we have, okay, so that was Bhupendra from OT Group Muscat. Thanks, Bhupendra, for joining. I'm also in Muscat. Let's meet sometime. Then I have Chetan Kadam from Aditya Birla, Australia. Hey, Chetan, thanks for joining. I know it's a little late in the night there. What is that? Around 5 plus 4:30, right? 9:30 or 10:30? Okay. So Bhupendra says he's the one who shared that incident with me, and he says that reminded of this daily from my office, L&T Powai Gate 3 to Gate 5 for lunch. While returning from lunch, I had choice to return via road or walk through shop floor. Yeah, absolutely. We always have a choice to walk through the shop floor. It actually reminds me of something similar in Pantnagar, where we sometimes used to just take a detour and come via just looking at some warehouses and all that. Yeah. Okay. So we have Jyoti from Gurugram. Thanks, Jyoti, for joining us. Let us know which organization, what function you are in. That will be great. Okay. Yeah. So Bhupendra has a couple of more insights here. He says that basically it connects you to the daily issues in the shop floor, how your systems are helping them. You get direct feedback first when someone approaches you. Technicians, workers, supervisors, listen to them with open mind and become approachable to them. Oh yeah, that's a very, very important one, that when you are walking through the shop floor, you are actually putting yourself in a bit of a vulnerable position where anybody can come and complain with you anything. But then you're also building a lot of trust and connect with them. And that being approachable is a very key word, which is a very important one for your own personal brand wherever you are, right? Being very approachable. And again, he adds that it was a top floor to shop floor connect on a daily basis. One cannot get this perspective in feedback sessions. Yeah, if you're getting these people into a conference room, or you're saying to the factory floor supervisor that I want to meet your users, they gather them in one place and then you ask them, those are going to be a little bit more orchestrated. They won't be as real as it can be as you're walking around and people are talking to you. Definitely a good insight. And yeah, you gave it the right name, the Gemba feedback, right? In the most simplified form. So we have, Surendranath from Tata Motors Pune. Thanks, Suren, for joining. And yeah, I have a soft corner for anyone in Tata Motors. I got my career, all my successes from there. Great to have you here. Then we have Chetan. Chetan confirms it's 9:30 p.m. there. And then we have Surendra putting some reflections here. He says it's very important for a manager to connect with the employees, even at a lower level, and appreciate them, increase productivity. I think the let's kind of end on that note here, Surendra. What we are saying is, then let me summarize this point. This the way from canteen to my office goes via shop floor. If you take that as the central theme, there are multiple, you can say, tentacles it provides you. Number one is that you are always connected to the ground. Number two is that when your subordinates see you doing this, they know that you will always know the reality. You will always be connected to the ground. They will try to do that, and suddenly you will see that cascade down as all your folks, and then when everyone behaves the same way, that sigma of that behavior is called culture. So a department culture will be a very grounded one. Number three, yeah, this is what they call Gemba. So if you really want to take it a notch further in terms of learning all about what is this as a management concept, the management concept is Gemba, right? And finally, as Surendra said, as you go around, you're also meeting them, appreciating them, connecting with them. And that's always good for the motivation levels of people, right? Okay, so let's move on and move on to the next question, which is again, one of my coaching stories. Okay. It is about the run, grow, transform. And I sort of started building up on it. This is a concept very, very, I would say, very, very known for the IT people. It starts from budgeting because all of us, when we do the budgeting, we try to bucket it as run, grow, transform. Run means, this is the minimum amount I need to run the IT operations, to run my help desk, to run my networks, to pay for my data center, etc., right? So when things which keeps the lights on. And then grow is all the company growth initiatives, the strategic elements where your current systems are needed to be stretched either in terms of capability or capacity, right? So a new plant coming up, a new line coming up, you are stretching the same technologies. That's like growing the same technologies, right? Or growing the same landscape a little further out. So stretching out your current infrastructure and applications. So that's your growth. But again, that is very, very connected to your to whatever you are doing, just to expand whatever you are doing, right? And then comes transform, which is what is the money I'm wanting to do something completely new, right? It may not always, the need may not always arise from business, but it may also be you preparing for, let's say, some upcoming business initiative by trying out the different technologies, running some POCs, or building an internal capability, like for example, capability related to AI or machine learning, or let's say IoT, running some experimental projects to master, to build internal capabilities. But transformation is always about trying to do something completely new, okay, and building capabilities. So here is the concept, and let me tell you the story. In fact, I have decided that all my AMA sessions, I'm going to be telling a lot of stories because those are what really get the message conveyed in the best possible manner. So I was talking to this, a customer of mine who's a coaching customer. So CEO of a company, a small company, and the question was about like how to run these customer meetings. So we are just discussing in the context of um, he meeting a CEO of a company, okay, for a monthly review. Okay, so I said, okay, so what do you cover in that review? What is it? How do you prepare? When do you first look at the tech that your team is building? And it was that, sir, yeah, whatever team is doing, they consolidate it. Is mahine kya kiya? What did we do this month? And then they put everything, all the charts, graphs, data, etc., etc. And maybe 1 hour before the meeting, I review it. We probably make some small corrections, and then we go and meet the customer. I said, so what is the discussion all about? And it was like, yeah, so we discuss, and then they give us some feedback, and we identify some improvement areas, and there we go. So I said, okay, but can it be done differently? And then we started discussing about this run, grow, transform mindset. Okay, leveraging these concepts of run, grow, transform. And I said, listen, what you're probably covering in your discussion with the customer, and you are getting this opportunity once every month. That means 12 times a year, you're getting an opportunity to get in front of the customer. And every time, think about how boring it will be that every time you just show them an updated version of the same graph, like whatever you're doing for them. So that's operations. That's what you're doing on a day-to-day basis for them. So that's run, right? So how about grow? How can you grow the business with them? Can we not budget some time where we discuss about, hey, so tell us, what are your new areas? What are your new developments? What kind of new things you are doing? What kind of new initiatives you are taking? What kind of new projects are coming up, etc., etc. And then, like, how can we contribute that? That's grow, right? That's whatever I'm doing. And of course, we'll come to an element of proactiveness later. But let me first park myself here on for run, grow, transform. And then I said, you know what? In the last 3 months that I have seen, you have been trying out different things. Okay, you have tried out adding a new technology in your portfolio. You have tried out, like, templatizing a few things. You have tried out. Everyone, we all keep trying out new things. Are you telling them? Are you telling your existing customers about those? It was like, no. Like, do you expect them to know it already? Are you assuming that they know it already? Maybe, yeah. So I said that's a transform angle, right? So in a customer meeting, telling them what else you are doing, okay? What are the new things you are trying out? What are the capabilities you are building, right? What are the experiments that you've done? What is the new stuff you have done with other customers? It has to be done in this meeting, and then it becomes a transform part, right? So even in a meeting, whether it's with a customer or now you can extend this, let's say, mindset that I'm calling now, not a methodology, to anything. You're a CIO, you're meeting your CEO. Normally a discussion would be around what are your hotspots, where do you need help, etc., 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 right? But then you can also cover, areas where you ask them about, like, hey, what will be the expectations from IT in terms of what are your ongoing initiatives for expansion, growth, geographical growth, product, diversity, etc., etc. And then finally, like, telling them about, hey, what are the new technologies which are coming? What are the capabilities that we need to build, etc., etc. So that's a run, grow, transform discussion with your CEO. We talked about a customer. We talked about a CEO. Similarly with your boss. After you have finished a discussion about, and let's not talk technology, let's say in manufacturing or accounts, right? So you are giving an update about what all you've done. Then can we discuss about what can we do better? right? What are the improvement areas, which is nothing but like, doing whatever you're doing today, but like, an extension of that. And then like, what are the new approaches? You have, let's say you know somebody in the same function in a different organization who are using, let's say, RPA, for example, right? Or you read something somewhere, where something can be done better. Let's transform, right? So you have a run, grow, transform as a mindset whenever you are doing anything, whenever you're interacting with someone important, right? Think about covering all the three areas. So in this case, then okay, so I parked one element here, which is proactiveness, right? So when do you think you will be able to have a, a good strategic discussion? I would call it as a well-rounded discussion covering all the three areas: run, grow, transform. It's only when you're prepared. So the next leg of our discussion, I said, so what do you need to do this? Can you do this today? And it was like, no, if you are reviewing the presentation of your team 1 hour before the meeting, can you ever go to the grow and transform? No, you cannot, right? So you got to be well prepared. You got to talk to a few people in that organization. You're meeting the CEO, remember? Okay. And you have access to the people down the line. You need to ask them some questions about the grow and transform areas, right? Which are important, which are priority from their point of view, etc. So if you really want to move from a run mindset towards a run, grow, transform mindset, the biggest thing you require is preparedness. And preparedness means proactiveness. When you have a meeting, 3 days before that, start preparing, start putting an agenda in place and see how that agenda is balanced between run, grow, transform. That means, you are discussing what's happening. You're discussing, extensions of, around whatever is like, your day-to-day things. And then you're also discussing about new things that we can do together, new things that you can do, I can do for you, new things that you can do for us. And the moment you bring in that mindset, you will have far more productive discussions, right? You will have much better planning, much more actionability. Also because you're being much more proactive and prepared for these things, right? So let me know if that rings a bell. If you have seen that happen, if you see that the run, grow, transform as a mindset can be useful to you, okay? And just put in some comments here. That will be useful. Just one more point on this one. I wanted to make. Let me see if I remember that. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. The run, grow mindset, run, grow, transform mindset, with proactiveness as a key enabler of bringing that mindset into everything that you do. Okay. Especially in your interactions, meetings with important people, right? Okay. So, yeah, willing to field any follow-up questions on this? Let me know. Okay, so now let me see. I can see a lot of comments here. Let me see if I have something which relates to this one. Okay, so Karthikeyan here is already on my next question, which is quality of IT service delivery. So Karthik, we will come to that. You keep putting your questions. Maybe I'll again give you a pinch, man. I mean, you write so much that it takes me a lot of time to read it. So why don't you parse it through Chat GPT and ask it to summarize it in a few bullets? Just joking, just messing up with you. Keep it coming, okay? So yeah, we have a comment coming from Gaurav Mathur from Felix Consulting. He says, you have explained it very well. Thanks. It's definitely as important, so important as a mindset. Hey, thanks, Gaurav. I am happy that it connected somewhere. It definitely connected with my mentee, um, and I have a promise from him to to be using it more regularly now. Okay. Okay. So now we come to the third question for the day. Hey guys, keep coming your keep bringing up your questions here, please. I do see a lot of confirmations, but I don't see any follow up questions. So please keep asking any questions related, unrelated, anything that where you may not be getting easy answers. Anything you think are topics people are not discussing. Open to discuss all of it. Yeah, here's my cup of tea. Bring in yours with your questions. Okay. So next is like how to plan for quality in IT delivery processes. I remember this question came in our last ClariTea Chat with Vijay Sethi, where we had last to last, I think, yeah, with Vijay Sethi, where we were covering the partner ecosystem and how to manage them best. And then the question came that, how do you ensure quality? Okay. So especially when you are working in a ecosystem where most of this delivery is done by your partners. Okay. So first, let me tell you the underpinning process that you require here is that of governance. Okay, governance is nothing but a system of reviews. Okay. Now, what do you review? Do you just get into a room and everyone talks about what they are doing, how they are doing, and then that's review? A lot of times that is how it is done. But the underlying thing to governance or a system of reviews is what do you review? So if you're able to focus on that, that will bring you to this question, that will really start answering some of this question around the quality of services, the quality of partners, etc. Right? Now, those are your KPIs, right? And these KPIs and an analysis around those KPIs will basically start telling you where the where the quality issues are. So let's take some examples. Okay, uh, IT service delivery. Okay, so number of tickets open beyond certain number of days. Then if you look at that metric and then you start looking at the dimensioning it, let's say month on month or let's say area by area. So related to desktops, related to applications, related to networks, and then starting to drill down into those areas. The moment you start setting up this a very fact and data driven discussions, that moment I think you have taken the first step towards improving the quality of operations, because then it is not about, well, there are only two types of discussions you can have. I keep going again and again back to the some of the basic fundamentals. Okay, there are only two kinds of discussions you can have. One in which people are talking about activities. I've done this. 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 Right. And the second type of discussions is where people are talking through data. Okay. So instead of saying I have done this, I've done this, say, hey, here we were before. This was the gap. We analyzed the data. This was the opportunity. We did 1, 2, 3 things, and here is the new data, and here is the percentage improvement. Here is the improved satisfaction, etc. So you're talking only through data. Now, most times we as managers or leaders tend to accept the first type of discussion. Okay, which is where I would say no, cut it out. So the moment you start enforcing with your team or with your partner that I want to know the numbers, okay, that time I think you would have taken the first step towards quality, because there is no quality which can be improved without the data or without the facts and without the analysis of that data, right? Because any actions that need to come out have to come out from the data, not out of your perceptions. Um, so, in practical terms, how do you enforce it in practical terms? Okay. Um, I used to call it, so my hack here was uh, please no adjectives and adverbs, only numbers. Okay. So what are these objectives and adverbs? We see a small problem here. Okay, small is an objective. How small? Okay. If that small problem is increase in, let's say, weekly number of tickets in a particular area, a small increase in weekly tickets in a particular area. What is that a small increase? Small is an adjective. Cut it out. Sorry, I don't accept objective. Let's convert that objective into numbers. 10% increase in tickets in a particular area in a week on week. 10% per week. That means 20%, 40% in a month. Are you crazy? Okay. Now this adjectives may be perceived differently by different people, but data only has one interpretation. Okay. And which is numbers. That's it. 10% is 10%. For someone it may be small, for someone it may be large, for someone it may be medium. But the 10% cannot be changed, right? The 10% cannot be interpreted. You know what I mean by interpretation? Something that you hear, you can interpret it in a certain way. Numbers are not open to interpretation. And therefore, it's very important for you to align the entire organization, to have everyone talk about the same thing with the same emotion is absolutely imperative to talk numbers. Okay? And that's what brings us then to the scorecards. Okay? So you need to have scorecards. You need to figure out that, hey, whatever is my expectation, how do I convert it into some data, and how do I then not even do that, but also be clear about my expectations of what do I want to see in that data, right? So it's called just defining your KPIs. What are you measuring? What is the measurement methodology, etc., etc. Okay, and then things fall into place, right? So now let's talk in terms of areas. Having said that, in technology you have many areas which require management. Anything that requires management will require operational excellence and quality intervention. Okay, let's start with first, which is service delivery. So service delivery, we're talking about the number of tickets, the aging of tickets. What is the distribution? If I have 1,000 tickets open, what percentage of them are open for, let's say, for the last 3 days? What percentage of open are within 7 days? Within 15 days and beyond 30 days. Okay, and then drill down of those to figure out that, hey, anything which is open for 30 days, what are we missing? Why are they open for more than 30 days? Maybe there's something more very fundamental, let's say at a policy level or at a technology level, that is missing, and you start converting that data point into an action, and then you suddenly see that that bucket getting a little more emptier, right? There are other things also, like for example, your one of the things that comes out of the service delivery is basically your application changes. Okay, so you can measure the defects, the number of change requests, a number of defects per release, right, or number of defects, number of changes that you have to roll back. Okay, so those can be some quality matrices for you. In case of projects, your quality matrices are relatively simpler. It's like how many projects are within budget and within timelines. And of course, in projects, you can also be looking at other metrics. For example, the change management process, right? So what is the number of changes that are coming? That means you are if you're very good about you're controlling your scope, minuting your documentation, minuting your meetings, being rigorous about the reviews of your requirements, documentation, and all, the number of changes are likely to be much lesser, right? So let me summarize this discussion. I just took 2 examples. There are many other examples. Let's say in case of, let me take one more, in case of technology, right? In case of your technology landscape, technical debt, okay? We actually developed a KPI called Technology Update Index, okay, which is across your technology set. There are 2 things that you need to manage. One is at what level you are in terms of the major version, and then at what level you are in terms of your, let's say, your minor, your patch level. Okay, and the moment you start measuring it in terms of how many behind the latest, okay, it's very simple. It's n minus x. What is that x? Okay, and then you set the target accordingly. So we set a target for our technology update index, that upgrade index. We called it TUI, TUI. Okay, was that on all the major versions we want to be n minus one, and all the patch levels we want to be n. Okay, so let's say if your SAP is at ECC6 whatever R13 or whatever, we want to be at R12. Okay. So just one behind, because whenever the partners bring in the latest version always has bugs, and they fix all the bugs and they move to the next version. So whatever is the bug fix version, which is n minus one, just be there. And then you look at like what percentage of my applications or technologies are at minus one, at n minus one from a major version point of view, and at n from a patch point. So let me summarize it. So number one, you need to have a system of reviews. Number two, what do you review there? Are you reviewing activities or are you reviewing outcomes or KPIs, right? So be clear that you have to run the reviews with KPIs. How do you make sure that you get KPIs and not stories? Okay, cut out the objectives. Set up a simple principle that no adjectives and adverbs, no small, big, good, bad. Those are banned. Those words are to be banned in meetings. What needs to be encouraged is people talking numbers, dates, facts, names, those kind of things. And third thing is that if you don't find the right KPI, invent it based on your expectation. What is your objective? Convert that objective into a metric. As a leader, define that metric to a certain level of detail, which is to align people that this is what we are measuring. Okay, and then just go and roll it out. I must tell you that before I close this topic, that um, IT, again, being a nascent area, it's just like a 40, 50-year-old domain compared to others which are centuries old, whether it's finance or manufacturing or materials, logistics, you name it, supply chain, they're all centuries old topics, started from industrial revolution. IT is just about a 30, 40-year-old topic. So not everything you will get ready-made in technology. A lot of things you will have to figure out on your own. Maybe check with people, hey, how are you measuring your technology update progress? Okay. You get an answer, good. Adopt something. Don't get an answer, you can be like, okay, maybe we have not got there and let me invent something on my own. If it is important for me, I will definitely invent something on my own. So, happy to hear any thoughts around this. And now let me bring in on this topic our friend Karthikeyan, who always writes big comments in 3 parts. So he says that I think that measuring quality of IT service delivery can take a page of instruction out of the IT quality of service performance testing playbook in today's online cloud-based IT service delivery processes. QoS degradation and latency issues are found out to be the responsibility of software as a service hosting provider vendors. And InfoWorld Writer's contention is that when cloud architects are asked why they no longer do performance modeling, what the author doesn't take into consideration is that many IaaS PaaS vendors offer templated third-party cloud performance testing and monitoring tools in their packages that are good for various forms of load and endurance testing, also known as data collector sets, akin to on-premises management packs for the cloud. For instance, what if one is trying to create baseline for one's cloud server so that one can identify the throughput bottlenecks in the performance of the performance second, the writer claims that the net new cloud systems developers may be kicking in the performance scan down the road or procrastinating. That claim doesn't hold good with the download and usage popularity of. Sorry, I moved there. Okay. Hey, thanks, Karthik. I think this is very important area. I completely missed it. In fact, many a times, the quality is what people know about quality in technology is actually about quality of your application and the performance of your application. So I completely missed it. I was probably more focused about the IT management per se, not so much about the software, which is anyway a matured field. So thanks. I think this is a good miss that you pointed out. I would say in a way. Yeah. So let's talk about software quality. Software quality again. If quality is important to you, I came from business. I have spent time in manufacturing, learning manufacturing. I've spent time in customer service, and I sort of know the importance of quality matrices and quality from a customer's point of view, wherever it touches the customer. And the software, it touches everyone all the time, right? And how much time, money, effort do we invest on software quality? I will. This is one thing that I see that except for the areas or for the industries where it is absolutely business critical. For example, telecom or banking, where if your app has a flaw, you can actually lose business. You can actually lose crores of business because that's what customers are using all the time. Most other areas, I haven't seen the focus on software quality as much as it should be there. Um, Way back, again, sorry guys, whoever has heard of those CRM stories, almost 17 years back in 2006, um, you know, we had this sort of fast growing CRM application. It was touching dealers and therefore it was touching customers. And I think we were always on our toes in terms of what could fail. And that's when I said, we have to do something more fundamental. And we brought in a partner and we gave them a free hand to, improve our software quality, set up the processes, be completely independent. I told them that they report to me, they don't report to anyone else. We kept the roles completely separate. The development partner was a different one, the quality partner was a different one. And then we actually empowered them and enabled them a lot to bring out not just those defects per se, but also about suggestions in improving the software quality. And I think that mindset is still continues, that legacy still continues. Thankfully, it has not been diluted. But then going forward, Karthik brought in a very important point of SaaS and cloud. I think that's where our approaches actually need to go beyond. It is the software is a given. What you really need to monitor where quality now transitions in terms of, if you measure it in terms of the customer experience, is the reliability, the speed, and the operating performance parameters, not so much from a software quality parameter. Software quality parameters still continue to remain important. Earlier, we used to do something additional on top of it, which is performance testing, which you cannot do today because of the SaaS. If you are on SaaS, you cannot do a performance measurement, but then you can always set up those monitoring tools which are round the clock, looking at customers' experience, which are simulating the customer's experience with different software and making sure that the moment there's a degradation in customer experience, okay, you get alerts and someone starts looking at it. I'm sure the SaaS vendors do it themselves, but even you can put up a independent monitoring methodology and software for that. So thanks for filling that gap, Karthik, and for all these for all the detailed comments. Karthik has also posted some links, very useful links. So please, you can go through it if this is something that interests you. Okay. Okay. So let me move on to some more comments. So I have Bhupendra coming here saying that very well said, Jagdish. Preparation is the key. Connects with the stakeholders when they see the detailing done. Of course, Bhupendra, yes. As you can see, preparation is the key. Being proactive is the key. looking at like, what am I going to be coming across, a day later, 3 days later, a week later, and then factoring in or starting to plan those actions from now itself. That is the key. You have a steering committee coming up. Start discussing with your team at least 3 days earlier, and start putting out some drafts before that, right? You're going to be having a partner meeting in a week's time. Okay, start asking all your team members, say, hey, whatever you guys want me to discuss with the partner, send me your thoughts, and then start organizing them. Start collecting more data. Again, keep a data mindset. Start collecting more data. Start anticipating, what kind of things are going to come from their side. Start preparing for them as well. I think all of these things, come together in having in bringing that strategic, nature back into your meetings or interactions, right? Okay, so Gaurav has a very important question, I would say. As a smaller set of people, how does one balance between the run and grow part of it? So Gaurav, I'm maybe like, if you can qualify that question. But as I said, this is more of a mindset. It doesn't have to do with like, how small your team is or how big your team is, right? You're always asking the three questions. What am I doing? What needs to be done more here, or where it needs to be done? I mean, how much I need to stretch on this, either from a scale point of view or from a scope point of view, and then what are the new things I can do, right? So maybe like if you ask me the specific context, I can answer you. Okay, so we have another question from Prabhakar. Okay, Prabhakar is asking, how can we have more of business-owned IT initiatives transformations? In the olden days, business process owners from various functions used to be deputed full-time for big IT initiatives, which is no longer the case now. Business nowadays is busy with its own challenges. Prabhakar, I think the reality is something different, as I can tell you, my friend, because what I see from where I sit, what I see is that business guys are much more involved in IT initiatives nowadays. There are two reasons for that. One is that digital transformation is now front and center, okay, and everyone wants to have something to do with digital transformation on their resume. Okay, let's understand. Beyond all of that, whatever we do, there is definitely an end motivation for every one of us, which is, how does it add to my capability? How does it add to my experience? And I mean, the visual portion of it is that how does it go into my resume? Okay, so whenever I see around, I see CEOs taking more personal interest in these digital transformation initiatives. I see business guys running with these. Sometimes it is detrimental because people tend to run, keeping IT at arm's length. That's not a good idea. Because end of the day, once you have run it, it needs to integrate back into your existing systems. It needs to follow certain security policies. I have seen, that over activism where people start running on their own with IT initiatives, keeping IT aside, those are not very long lasting. Okay? So if you're a business guy watching this, I should say that, go hand in hand with your CIO. It may sometimes be a little slow because there are many considerations that your IT folks will bring in, which you may not very obviously bring in. But but those are going to be useful. Okay? So don't think that that a lower speed is going to hurt. Not always, right? Of course. On your other point, Prabhakar, that old days business process owners for various functions used to be deputed for IT initiatives, big IT initiatives, no longer the case now. One is that I think there is a lot of that what the BPOs used to do has been taken over by consulting firms of various sizes. And the BPOs still need to be involved. Without their involvement, you can't run those initiatives. So maybe from where you're sitting, what you're watching, it may seem like that, but I can tell you it's not. Just because of one single biggest factor, which is everyone wants to be seen as a digital transformer, okay, and not somebody who's registering it. Earlier, that used to be the case. People used to like, IT apna kaam kar raha hai, karne do. Let IT do its job. I just need to like support them minimally. But today, people want to be associated. So it's a good time for you to leverage that mindset or leverage that motivation and get your initiative run faster and better with that. Okay, so no more questions, I believe, and we are like just at the end of the chat. So let me summarize. Okay. Okay. So we started with Bhupendra. He is there. I did tell him that I'm going to be covering this. The way back from the lunchroom goes via the shop floor. And thanks Bhupendra for joining us and and contributing to that discussion. The road back from canteen goes to the shop floor, visiting the shop floor. That's where the action is. That's Gemba. That's connecting to the ground. That's having a reality check on a daily basis on what your team tells you that they are doing. Is it really making a difference to the people? It gives you inputs on like in the quality of work that is being done. Whether the dashboards are showing right, whether the devices are functioning well. Basically, it tells you the impact of your work where it matters. Is it happening or not? Right? That's a reality check. Okay. Then we talked about the run, grow mindset, run, grow, transform concept. Run, grow, transform has always been used as an IT budgeting methodology. That what I need to run the business, keep the lights on. What I need to support the growth of the business, new plans, new products, new this thing, new that thing, but stretch on my existing infrastructure landscape. And then there is transform. What is the money I need to run, to build new capabilities, to bring in new technologies, to run POCs, to explore new areas, etc., etc. Right? But then what we saw in our discussion is that this run, grow, transform need not just be something that you use for your budgeting. This is something you can use as a framework, as a mindset itself in making everything that you do more strategic. So what is the difference between run alone versus run, grow, transform? Is that run, grow, transform is more strategic because it is bringing in a lot of future elements. So what is the strategic in my view is something that is looking into the future. So run, grow, transform is futuristic. You're always looking at, not just what you're doing today, but beyond that. And that can be applied in any setting. We discussed one case study where, a partner is making a presentation to the CEO of the customer, and then how are you being strategic about bringing a run, grow, transform into that discussion, and basically being more strategic about your relationship for the growth of your business and to pitch new ideas to the customer, right? The same thing we discussed can be done in your discussions with your boss, with your discussions with your CEO. And then we discuss the most important thing required for a run, grow, transform mindset, which is proactiveness, which is preparation. Run can be discussed without preparation. Grow and transform require you to be proactive, prepare for it, seek inputs, read out, etc., etc., and then bring all of these to structure a discussion which is grow and transform, which includes grow and transform, right? Then we talked about the third one we took was like, the quality in IT delivery processes. We initially covered IT delivery processes, whether it's, let's say, service delivery or program management. And what we said is that the three things that you require is a set of Review processes, what I call as governance, is nothing but a set of review processes at different levels. What do you review? Activities or outcomes? It should be outcomes, it should be KPIs. How do you review it? Cut the adjectives and adverbs out. Everyone brings numbers. Nobody talks about low, high, small, big, going well, not going well. No. We all talk numbers which do not lend themselves for interpretation. There's only one interpretation for one number. That's it. Right? And then we brought in the Karthik's points there about the software quality. Yes, anything that your software is doing is touching the customer and it is creating an experience, whether for your employee, for your partner, for your customer, right? So it better be of the highest quality. And one way to gain respect and to have your head held high is to make sure that you have quality processes built into your, not just your code, but also your performance, right? And of course, there are partners for that. There are processes for that. There's a very well-trained, I would say, workforce for that. You've got to tap into it. I have done a lot of work on software quality, in taking the level of software quality in different areas way above. I mean, definitely, if you're interested, we can chat up about it. Okay. And finally, we had one question from Prabhakar about how can we have more of business-owned IT initiatives and transformations. I mean, my advice, latch on to the trend, latch on to the wave where every business guy wants to be seen as a digital transformer. If they are not doing it themselves, just reach out to them, show them what is happening in the world, and I think you'll get their buy-in, right? Okay, so that brings us to the end. Oh my God, I overshot it by 2 minutes, guys. But I hope you don't mind. Thanks for being there in good numbers, and thanks for a lot of questions and interactions that we had. Thanks, Bhupendra, for giving me the anchor, I would say, question for my, or the anchor point for my discussion, where we started with the road back to office goes through the shop floor. On that note, thank you everyone for interaction, for encouragement. Very soon we'll be hitting a century of ClariTea Chats. Send me your ideas on what we should be doing. If we haven't done anything so far, I can tell you. And before I close, last but not the least, all of you who are watching the recording, and I know a lot of you watch the recordings, a big thanks for watching the recording. Do feel free to send in your comments, even though we are not discussing it interactively, but please do send in your comments and questions. Look forward. We'll have our next ClariTea Chat in 2 weeks' time. See you till then. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.